Even if you ask him to give 1 kobo out of it, he will not give. Do you know why people don't pay tithe? Do you know the reason? I don't care the argument you look at and you follow on social media. I don't listen to social media news and noise. The word of God is my standard. And if you're a child of God, the word of God should be your standard. The people that call themselves, I don't like to call that man daddy. The man that says he's freezer should not be the one that should teach you the word of God. People that you don't even, you are not sure of their salvation, and they are the ones telling you what to believe and what not to believe. I've read the Bible by the grace of God, and I know that tithing even precedes the law. And Jesus even made mention of it, made reference to it in the New Testament. Even in the book of Hebrews, it was also referenced that when Abraham paid tithe to Melchizedek, Levi, who was his 4th generation, because Abraham gave birth to Isaac, Isaac to Jacob, and Jacob to Levi. Bible said that even though Levi was not born then, that Levi also paid tithe to Melchizedek. So you don't need to be confused about the noise that's everywhere in the social media. You are supposed to pay your tithe. That's normal. In fact, for me, it is better that I do what I read in this Bible and I get to heaven. God says to me, you were too good that even if you didn't pay tithe, we wouldn't have even bothered you. It's not a problem. It's better that way than that you got there. They say the reason why we won't put you in heaven was because you refuse to pay tithe. You see, some churches, some people argue whether it is good for a woman to tie her tie or not. So some people are arguing it, and I tell people, it is better for you to tie a tie in error. When you get to heaven, they say, do you know that even if you didn't tie a tie, you will still come here? It is better that way than for you to go to heaven and they said, no, we don't know you because we told you to be tying a tie, you refused. The reason why people don't pay tithe is because their money is owing them. Their money is owning them. Their possessions are now the ones controlling them. So they think about 1/10. You have 1,000. God is not asking for 900 naira. He's just asking for 100 naira. And it's a problem for some people. And that is why we Anglicans are struggling. Can I tell you, if you go to most of these Pentecostal churches, I have links with many of them because of where I work. What they use to develop their churches is tithe. People faithfully pay their tithe, so they don't even have time to come and be talking about donations. So remember why I said what I said. God's problem is that if he releases things to you, those things can have you. That is the problem. In fact, if you are a millionaire, you have 10 million naira in your account. Maybe you didn't even experience hardship in life. You just immediately you left school, you went for youth service, you came out, you found job, and they were paying you 500,000 naira every month. Even when some of your mates are still looking for job, God is just trying your faith. He's just, let us just try him. Let us just try her out. And you have discovered that because of that job, many times you don't even come to church. You don't even have time to study the Bible. You don't even have time to pray. You don't even have time, in fact, to even pay tithe, in a sense. So that is God's problem, and that is the challenge. We have read in Isaiah 45 what he said. That is what he wants to do. So unlimited breakthrough is not an issue. God is, happy when his children are prospering. He is very happy. God is not happy that you are struggling financially. God is not happy that your landlord or your landlady threw your things out of the compound. God is not happy that you don't even have money to eat one meal in a day. He's not happy. He's not glorified. But the problem is that God is also a mathematician. He's looking at the fact that the level of your heart, if I give you money, we will lose you. Don't know there are some people that they used to come to church faithfully, come to church, come to pray every time. The moment they made money, they had little or no time for God anymore. And so, that's why in Matthew chapter 6, verse 33, the Bible said, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness. Before I continue reading this passage, have you noticed that the moment Abraham offered or wanted to offer Isaac to God, you know, he almost offered him. You remember? In fact, statistics has it that both men and women who didn't have children on time, maybe they have spent 20 years, 22 years before having a child, they always overpamper their children. In fact, statistics, that's the statistics. They overpamper their children. And many a time, when you see spoiled children, it is because the parents think that, let us not be hard, that if we are hard on this child, to discipline this child may die. And Abraham was having deep affection for Isaac. Maybe God had already watched him. That the time that Abraham used to have his personal devotion, the time that Abraham used to separate himself to seek God, he was now always fond of Isaac. Everywhere, Isaac, every time he's playing with Isaac, he didn't have time again. And that was a man known for building of altars, raising altars to God. So God decided to say, as a jealous God, we need to do something. If not, we lose Abraham. So that's why God told him, go and do what? Offer your son. If you read that account, God said, the one you love. In case you are thinking, I'm talking about Ishmael. It's not Ishmael. It's that one you love. Sacrifice him. Give him to me. And it was until Abraham took him and went to sacrifice him, and thank God, God intervened. I am sure that God would have calculated and said, if you allow this man, and he does it, when Jesus comes to die for the sins of the world, they will say, what is that? Abraham did it. Is that a case? Is that an issue? So God said, no, Abraham will not beat me. So God stopped him, and they showed him a ram to offer a sacrifice to him. Check what God said immediately after that. God said, for now I know that you fear me. I said, what? Does it mean that all these years God was suspecting Abraham? Yes, I'm sure of the word I use. Suspect. God was actually suspecting him. So when you come before God and say, I love you, Lord, I love you, Lord, I love you, he's suspecting you. He's looking at you. This man, this woman that is saying, I love you, Lord, if we give him 10 million naira now, will he still come to church on time? If by mistake, we allow him to get US visa, and he goes to US, and he makes millions, builds house in the village, builds hotels everywhere, is he still going to be devoted to his personal devotion? That is why, even if God has given you money earlier, first, it's still a test. Because as long as God is concerned, God deals in unlimited breakthrough. When God doesn't want to give you, he said you will lend to nations and not borrow from. Do you know what it means to lend to nations? You think to lend to nations is to have 100 million?